Welcome everybody to another episode of Atlanta Unplugged, and I'm your host, Steve Paul, and I have a very special guest with us today, going by the name of Vitelle. Now, Vitelle, how are you? How are you doing? And welcome to Atlanta Unplugged.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys for having me. I'm doing great. Beautiful day. That's all I can say. Good. All is well in the house of Vitelle. Ooh, I need to brand that.
Yes, indeed. So tell us about yourself. What have you came and brought to the table and everything? What are you doing? What's going on?
Okay.
What's happening with Vitelle?
Okay. So for those who don't know, I am an actress first. I'm a model entertainer, host. I do a little bit of everything, but most recently I am a published author now. I just published my first book, I Am, a poetic ensemble. And I wear a lot of hats. I'm a wife and mother as well. So I kind of juggle a little bit of everything, but most people know me as an actress.
Cool. So what have you been into as far as your acting gigs and everything? What have you starred in, or and what do you have coming up?
Okay, awesome. Good question. Because of COVID, I will say this. It's been really slow, like for most people this past year. But prior to that, and prior to me taking a break to raise my 3 to 4-year-old, I was really big in Tyler Perry work. His Meet the Browns, House of Pain. I'm so bad when it comes to questions because I literally have to have my resume in front of me. I've been in over 30 movies. I can't always remember them all off the top of my head. I can't remember my own resume. When I moved to Atlanta, my purpose for moving here was to work with Tyler Perry. So I did that, and that's probably one of the most well-known, household names that people would know of. But other than that, I've done, like I said, 30 movies. So you kind of gotta just look into them to find out. I don't know what all people would know.
Wikipedia?
So you can Google me.
Like
You can Google me, Vitelle, and I have my IMDb page up as well, which all of my stuff isn't on IMDb yet. I'm actually working on updating all of that right now. But my website, has everything listed there as well. So
what do you like to do the most? Movies, TV shows?
Stage plays, actually. Stage plays is my favorite because it's challenging. I like a challenge. Like with film, you can cut if you mess up. You can cut and start all over, do it again. With stage, you gotta either get it right or make it look like you meant to do that. So it's a little bit more challenging. And it's just live, and the energy from the audience and just feeling them and them feeling you is something different about that than just having the camera. Like with the camera, I gotta imagine the audience there. I gotta know they're there and try to give it to them, but I can't feel them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's something about that stage.
So what's interesting is that doing a little background of yourself, and you loving to do the stage plays. Not only do you do the stage plays, but you created your own stage play.
I did. I have my stage play, The Face of Homeless, is the one that's out now. Now, I've wrote several of them, but I'm one of those people, like, I just got to perfect what I got. And so I've done that show 13 times. And then once I feel like it's perfected and where I want it to be, then I go ahead and I'll start breaking out and pushing the other ones. But The Face of Homeless is actually based off of my life in a way as well. It shares my testimony of when I was homeless, living in my car with my children. And it also shares the testimony of other people that may not have a voice to speak out. So it kind of shows homelessness from several different perspectives, because there are different homeless situations, not just the typical stereotype that you would go to when you think of homelessness. So
there's levels to it.
Right, exactly. Right. And hence the face of homeless, because you don't know who's homeless. Like when I was the busiest, when I first moved to Atlanta in 2009, and I was the busiest and the most known and, just looking the most successful to everybody else, was when I was homeless living in my car. So, you just never know what somebody's dealing with. And so it's all about not judging and being open-minded and kind to people. And, there's a lot of messages in it, but yeah, that's the face of homeless.
Okay. So where are you originally from?
Originally from Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio.
Yep. However, I've been in Atlanta since 2009, so I'm told I'm a native now. And being that this is the longest I've been anywhere for a period of time, I'm basically from Atlanta at this point.
Okay, so how long do you have to be in Atlanta to be?
Somebody told me 11 years. Like when I hit that 11-year mark, they was like, "Oh, you from Atlanta?" So I'm like, "Okay, I'll take it. I'll claim y'all."
Oh man! So what is it about Atlanta that drove you to come here to Atlanta to take your opportunity? I know you said you wanted to work with Tyler Perry.
Right.
Is that the only thing that drove you here?
Not really. I mean, when I was in Kentucky prior to coming to Atlanta, so I was kind of working in Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio, like having to work around all those areas in order to get work and stay busy. So I knew it was either between Atlanta or LA that I would have to move at some point. I was just outgrowing the pond that I was in, I guess you could say. So I was comparing the two for a while, and like I said, I felt like Tyler Perry was the one person that was doing what I want to do in the industry and bringing God to that industry. So I was like, okay, that's who I want to work with first. Let me go there, build a name for myself there. Then we'll go to LA later or whatever. So it was kind of just a game plan. Of course, you compare the expenses in both places and things like that too. And then I knew a couple people here as well. So it was a lot of pros and cons that I had to weigh out to make the decision on where I'm going to go. But but Tyler Perry was high up there on the charts for one of them. So it took me 2 months to get in to his studio to work on. Like I just started submitting actually before I even moved here, and I was here in Atlanta about 2 months before I got the first call to come work with them. So
how was that experience to be able to actually put that in your mind that you want to work with Tyler Perry, make the move to make it happen, and then you said 2 months,
right?
You was able to. So. Pretty sure there was ups and downs going through there. How was that experience?
I mean, it was reassuring for me because, I kind of always knew if I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. But the fact that it did happen that quickly, and that's something that a lot of people, aspire to do, that it doesn't happen. It was very reassuring to know that it's true. When I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it quick. So I just buckle down and focus. But, the experience itself, it was, it's hard to explain because I kind of had been there already. It's like my vision goes beyond just imagining it or one day I'm gonna do, like everybody dreams and everybody hopes for the future, but me, I be there already. Like, it's no doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of exactly when in my timeline that's gonna happen, but it's happening, Right. So once I was there, it's like, oh, this is happening. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is really happening. Like I already knew it was gonna happen, It wasn't like that, like like you would expect it to be. It was just kind of like, this is pretty much everything I was expecting. So, but it was reassuring to, and it took away any doubt I may have had, the more often I do that, the more that doubt goes away. I think the only part that I didn't anticipate and the moment that was kind of amazing for me, I guess, was when Tyler Perry actually sat in front of me and said, "Oh, hey, Vitelle." Like he just, like we just friends or something, like prior to that, I hadn't really spoke to him. I'd been on the set. He comes in, he directs, you don't really bother him. They tell you not to bother him on the set, so I didn't think that he really saw me, out of all the people that are working here with him. So, and all the chaos and craziness. So, and there was a few times that I would catch his glance and he'd be staring at me. I'm thinking, oh, I hope he's casting me for something in his head. Cause, so I mean, but I just watch him work and I'm just taking notes and trying to get better at my own craft. But that when he sat down in front of me, was like, "Hey, Vitelle," and pronounced it right and everything. I'm looking like, who?
That
Me?
goes a long way.
Right.
That goes a long way. Wow.
Right. So that was a moment of, this is for real. So
okay, that's cool. That's awesome. So you're acting. How long have you been acting?
My whole life. Pretty sure I was born like I'm gonna act like I want to be out here. Just as long as I can remember, I've been acting. All through school, I was in stage plays and things like that. When I really got active with it and started to realize like, okay, I do this well. I need to keep doing this. Was probably in high school. I started doing stage plays and stuff, and then going into college, I was doing stage plays there until I realized like, why am I not like I'm grown now? Why am I not doing this for real, like a job instead instead of just, entertaining my fellow students and stuff, which, that was great. But I wanted to, I needed bigger. So I didn't stay in college very long, actually. Moved on and started working full time. So
what college was that?
Berea College. Yeah. Shout out to Berea College. The ones that actually liked me. The rest of y'all can kick rocks. Haters. Anyway. Yeah, so Berea College.
Berea College. Okay, cool. Now, so you do acting, and you do what are the other talents that you have?
Modeling. I'd put modeling second because that's I didn't really like modeling when I first started doing it because I don't like to dress up. I don't like to be the center of attention. Like I just don't like, there was a lot of stuff I didn't like about modeling. So when I first started modeling, I had to psych myself up to do it because it just fell into the territory of acting. Like, when you're acting, like you see a lot of actors that do commercials and ads and magazine shoots and stuff. Like you end up having to model at some point when you're an actor. So I was trying to avoid it for the longest, but I just started looking at it like, okay, you know what? This is just acting in still form, So I had to tell myself that. And so now, even still now, when I model, I have to go into character and be a model as if that's a whole nother character and to do it right. So yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with modeling though.
Right. Fashion shows, print, commercial, just everything I can get my hands on, I'll do it. If the opportunity presents itself, I'll weigh my options, and if it's something that I feel like I should do, then I do it.
Do you sing, dance, do any of that?
I do a little bit of both of those. I haven't as full-time as part of my career yet, but that is something that I put out there that I'm capable of doing. So if I get booked for that, I will. But I haven't really pushed that side of it. I kind of looked at the singing and dancing part as, when I get just same way I do with my plays, when I get the acting part perfected and established and where I want it to be, then okay, I might drop an album like surprise, y'all ain't know I could do that, did you? So just so I can just focus my energy on the main thing, my one big thing. And then just, I'd actually, shout out to Shasha Martin. I actually just was featured on one of her albums recently. So that was my first time. She kind of made me do it. She was like, girl, you can do this. So go on and do it. So I'm like, okay. And then I spit some bars on her little album and stuff. And not her little album. But
so it's safe to say you just don't limit yourself in the creative world. Exactly.
Now, the only thing I can't do, because I don't like to say can't, but I prefer not to play an instrument. I'm not the best at that, and I have tried it before, and I just don't have the patience. I got to Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on the guitar, on the keyboard. I tried a little bit of everything until my patience wore out, and I was like, okay, that's just not for me. I'd rather stick to what I know. So my husband plays an instrument. He can handle that side of it.
Okay.
Everything else, I got.
As long as you got all the elements there,
right,
to progress. Now, all that talent, and then you become an author.
Yep.
Now you're writing and putting out books.
Yep. And I had been writing since I was a kid. It was one of those things that was therapeutic for me and got me through. And I knew, again, eventually that I would publish a book. I didn't think it wowould be this one first. I thought it was going to be The Homeless System, which is one that's still in the pre-production phases right now, but because it's a lot longer and a lot more of a story. But this one came because I felt like, okay, I've been writing for so long. This is something that I have on my bucket list, and I need to go ahead and do it now because, life is too short. It was kind of a lot of things were going on that was a reality check to remind me how short life is, and I gotta leave behind something. So if I was to leave tomorrow, at least I know I got this one out. I'm working on the other ones, but
so this is the first one.
It's the first one. First of many. And this one is like a summary of all the ones to come.
Okay,
so,
now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You have this book here, and express to everybody what this book is all about.
Yeah, so I Am is it's a memoir. First, it is the story of my life. I tried to put it in chronological order as much as possible, but a lot of the poetry that is in it, because it is a poetry book as well, was written ever since like the age of 13 was probably the youngest that I wrote in here. So I try to put them in chronological order to tell the story of my life, to fill in the blanks, but also as a self-help book. So it serves three purposes. It's a book of poetry, it's a memoir, and it's a self-help book. So basically all the trials and tribulations that I went through in life, I was able to put into a book to share for people who are going through those things too. And in the back of the book, you'll see there's a self-help section where you have numbers listed for people who are dealing with some of the things that I've dealt with, such as suicide, depression, homelessness, abuse, you name it. I might have probably been through it at some point, which, it comes in handy with the acting side, because there's not too many characters I can't relate to in some way to put myself in those shoes. But yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's start with the homeless situation. How did that come about, and how did you grow from it?
Well, it basically was one of those situations where, we had been in Atlanta for a little bit. I was working full-time acting, and at the same time juggling. I had 2 kids at the time, and I was juggling another night shift job as well. So when I first came to Atlanta, I was going hard, no sleep, team no sleep, just trying to make it happen. But it got to the point where you just had to kind of choose between, are you going to pay rent? Or are you going to pay the car note? And being that I was in that predicament, I knew that if I didn't pay the car note, I wouldn't have a car, and I couldn't do all of what I'm doing, so I wouldn't be able to pay the rent anyway. I was going to end up losing the apartment. So it made more sense at that time to pay the car note and not worry about the rent. And so I lost the apartment, and we decided to just make that sacrifice and sleep in the car for a little while. So.
Now, are you doing that without letting nobody know what your situation is?
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, there was a couple of times that I have a hard time asking for help. Especially then. I'm getting better at that now. But, I wasn't one to ask for help from anybody. But even the few instances that I started to, that pain of that rejection and realizing they don't really give a crap about me, it was like, I ain't telling nobody else, so I decided to just handle it myself because of that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And that being said, as far as the challenges of telling anybody at that time, I know it's tough. What got you to the point where I need now to speak about what happened?
I really didn't speak much on it until my play The Face of Homeless came out, honestly. I hadn't thought about that, actually, till you just asked that. That was the first time that I really told everybody. And the first people I told was the cast of the show. They didn't even know. We're doing rehearsals and everything. They had no idea. But I did that to kind of make them bring it the next day. I wanted them to bring it when they did the show, and make them take it personally when they did the show as that character, whatever character they were. So the night before the show, I told them at rehearsal what our situation was, and they just could not believe it. And I'm like, that's my point with the show, that you wouldn't know, and you just you have to pay attention. Sometimes there's certain signs, sometimes you can't, I covered it up very well. But if you care about people, you get involved in their life, you check on them, you kind of would realize something might not be right. And it's the same with anything, whether you're talking about abuse or anything somebody's going through behind closed doors, or whatever case may be, you would notice something if you're paying attention and you're concerned with people. Right. We nowadays are just so all in our own box, all in our own world, and we're not thinking about anybody else, so we miss a lot.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
That is so true. That is so true. I mean, I deal with the same thing. That's just a part of my experience. That's why, I gravitate to a lot of what you're saying. From the homelessness to the depression, everything, it resonated with me and all that, because just went through the same thing, dealing with people that don't care about, what's going on with you. but they want you to care about them.
Right.
What's going on with them. It's like,
right.
hey, man, which we're glad to do, but,
right.
some reciprocation needs to come.
Right. I have these conversations every day. Did you see my Facebook post? No. Did you read my book? Like, it's a lot.
So has that changed since you put out the play?
Has what changed exactly? Like
as
the
far
way
as,
I feel.
Now people want to pay more attention. People want to be more involved and have more understanding of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate everyone who supports me, but it is sometimes obvious when it's people who didn't even really like you before or what man. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, what she got going on over here? So yeah, there's always going to be that, but it doesn't make me appreciate the people who truly support any less.
Right. Yeah. Now, segueing that from the homelessness to the depression, have you always dealt with depression growing up, or did that come about through your trials and tribulations from trying to get to where you're at today?
Good question. So I believe that the depression that I deal with is first off generational. After doing my research and just paying attention and trying to figure out my why and the reasons why in order to fix it, I do know that it is generational, and I believe that it's honestly from both sides. The more I learn in my adulthood, the more I realize, like, dang, like, based off of the generational curses that I see coming from both directions, like I should be even more messed up right now, But so it's that first. But I will say that through the trials and tribulations, I'm sure it contributed to them becoming worse. But at the same time, it contributed to me working harder to make it better. So the same trials and tribulations that grew me might have contributed to the depression in some ways as well. So I got a little bit of both of those going on.
So when did you start to realize that you are dealing with depression?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I've mostly was dealing with so much stuff with those trials and the different circumstances that it was always the stuff that I was dealing with. I never really was dealing with my depression and the root of my depression. I just attributed to what was going on because there was always a lot of stuff going on. But I think just more recently, I would say, I guess, that I've focused more inward, now that life is kind of balanced out and there's not any crazy things going on right now to write a movie about. My life is a little bit normal now compared to what it has been and what I write about in this book. I have a happy family and a career. I'm following my dreams, those kind of things. But so now I'm able to really see, okay, that depression is still there, even though I'm not dealing with some traumatic event at this moment. And so now I can really focus on what's behind it and why hasn't it gone away, even though the bad stuff has gone away, Right. So, yeah.
And they really don't have anything out there about depression. Like there's no cure for it,
right?
Or there's nothing out there that we could tap into right now that I know of that gives the answer to why depression exists and everything that. Key words that you were saying, generational curses and everything. I recently started believing in that. Because I'm like, where does this come from?
That's a thing.
And I had to reflect back on my days, not knowing that I was dealing with it, but I had to reflect later on, like, dang, I was dealing with
Right.
that.
Right.
So what was your upbringing like? And I'm asking these questions so we can see, just for others that go through the same thing, because I know that they're experiencing the same thing that we're experiencing, meaning that they don't even know that they're dealing with that issue.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of times they're in situations to where they're not surrounded by people that deal with that type of issue, so they have to deal with it alone.
Right.
So can you get some insight on your upbringing and dealing with that whole situation?
I mean, as far as my upbringing goes, I don't think that I realized there was depression for me. Like, I didn't know what was wrong until as an adult. Like I'm in hindsight looking back on everything from my perspective now. I wish that I was as wise then as I am now. Then I would have been able to figure out a lot more stuff. But everything that I know as far as my childhood is now, it's from hindsight and learning what I'm knowing now. So I didn't, I know my mother. Now I know my mother was dealing with depression. I didn't know then when she was crying and when she was, the way that she would react to some things. I didn't know what was wrong with her, and I wouldn't have thought, I wonder if my mother's depressed, because I'm a kid. So now looking back on it, I'm like, ooh, now I know, and then you become a parent yourself and you're seeing, now I know what she was dealing with. This must be what she was feeling, and this, and her mother before that and her mother before that. So like you said earlier, because it's not really talked about, that's the main problem right there. That's why we can't fix it, and it's going to continue to be that generational curse. And that's what I'm most determined to do right now, is break that generational curse for the next generation coming behind me, my children and my nieces and nephews. And so that's one thing I do now, is we talk about it. If my kids are asked this same question in the future, they'll be able to say, oh, we talked about this stuff every day, all the time. Like, what are you feeling? Teaching, especially my boys, oh my gosh, to express themselves and say what is wrong with them, because unfortunately, that's something that men aren't taught enough of, especially men, don't express those feelings with words. So being that I'm just now, as an adult, learning to express those with words, I'm trying to teach my children to do that ahead of time, so that their upbringing leads to a better adulthood. My upbringing did not lead to a great adulthood.
I mean, everything, my point of view is everything happens for a reason.
Right.
So, as much as we're going through all this suffering and pain and everything, we do walk away with wisdom and understanding.
Absolutely.
That we can share with others that come behind us and help them out and everything.
Right.
Now, as far as your family and you growing up, were they a loving family, or was it? Because I know that even as a group of people, Black people specifically, we dealt with a whole lot, within 400 years and beyond. So we dealt with a whole lot. So there's a whole lot of healing that needs to take place. Right. And I know that, and your solution is to have those conversations and everything, and which I agree with. You have to have those conversations and get things off your chest, because we're dealing with energy. Right. And if you hold that negative energy in, then, it messes you up. Right. So I'm trying to, figure out, does it happen? So are depressed people coming from any type of family, or is it like these type of families that you're most likely to have depression from? So was your family loving? Did they hug and kiss, or were they just like, you just here? We got to make this work.
Short answer, no. Okay, let me get my mind right, because I told myself before this interview, because I've lined up a lot of interviews most recently. I'm really pushing this book hard, and one of the scariest parts with promoting this book is that it's the truth, is that it's my real life and it involves other people. So I'm always careful in my interviews not to hurt anybody's feelings and not to drag anybody's name or anything like that. So that's hard to do when you're telling the truth. So I'm going to put this disclaimer out there, and I promised myself I was going to start being more honest in interviews, because the more interviews I do and the more people read this book, the more questions are going to arise, like this one that you just asked me, that I normally would try to avoid answering somehow, because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But I promised myself I was going to start being extremely honest, and because people need this and it's necessary, and I have to remember that and think about those people. So I will say, honestly, my upbringing, more than anything, and there's a poem in my book that describes it and sums it all up. It's called Unloved. If I could sum it all up in one word, y'all see me. A lot of people question what I am. Am I Black? Am I white? Am I mixed? Am I Mexican? Whatever. Like, all these questions. And that has been the entire 34 years I've been alive. And not only that, but then you take me and put me in a household. My mother is Black. I was raised by a Black, not only Black, but militant mother, from a line of Black Panthers. So you can imagine what that would have been like for someone that looks like me growing up in a family that no one looked like me. My grandfather, who was a Black Panther also, he looked most like me. So I was closer to him mentally, or for me, because he looked most like me. But everybody else is darker. So from my perspective, whether they want to believe this or not, I was treated differently by everybody else because I was different. And it was assumed that I thought I was better than everybody else because I was light and had good hair. It was assumed that, I felt like, whatever, all these different things. And it was the complete opposite. I felt ugly. I felt like something was wrong with me. I felt like an outcast because I did not fit in, not even with my own family, but not at school, not anywhere. And even with my high school years, the first 2 years I spent in a majority Black. There was like 1 or 2 white people in the whole school. And I figured out ways to fit in and make friends, but for the most part, I did not feel accepted. But then I had a culture shock and went to a school that was majority white school. And there was like 2 Black people in the whole school for the last 2 years. And I realized they accepted me a whole lot more than these people do. I realized how Black I was when I went to a majority white school. So I've seen the craziness of both worlds, the best of both worlds, and I know from both perspectives. So now I feel like I can talk about them all. But that's how it was for me. That sums up the story of my life outside of the major trials and tribulations. I was dealing with that forever through all of those, no matter where I was, at home or outside of home. So yeah, that would be enough in itself to mentally mess a person up. But you add that with all the other crap that I went through, and it's a lot.
I agree with you totally, and that is something that happens in our communities, our Black communities, and everything. As you can see, I'm light-skinned myself. And I'm the only light-skinned out of my mother's dark, and all my brothers. I only got brothers, so 3 brothers, and they're all dark, and I'm the only light-skinned. It's just, my father got the same complexion, and I feel like that's what I was facing with also, and I got to prove that I'm Black too,
Right, exactly.
But,
it's crazy.
But I never thought like that. Like, I had to prove it. I'm just like, shoot, I came out.
I
Black
did.
Mama, so
I felt like I had to prove it all the time. Like there was a long period of time in my life where you would not see me without braids in my hair. I felt like I had to have braids in my hair for people to question me less. Like maybe that would help. There was something that I could do always. And even as becoming an adult, I felt like I had to go to a tanning bed. Like I got to do something so that people know who I am when they look at me and don't question me every time. Most people meet and, hey, hi, nice to meet you. I meet people and, hey, what are you? Like, what? Like, that's crazy.
Now, I heard you speak on your mother and your grandfather. What about your father?
Another question I have yet to be asked in an interview. Now,
this is a safe place, so anything that you don't want to.
No, it's fine. I don't. Like I said, I made a promise to myself and to God more than anything when writing this book and putting it out there, knowing what was coming next, that I have to be honest, no matter what that cost. So I did not. I don't think I knew or realized that my biological father was white. I did not know. I don't know what age I found that out or I realized that. But I do remember pieces that at some point in my teenage years, his mother would try to get me and visit me and stuff. But I don't remember at what point I made the connection. I think a lot of stuff is blocked out from my childhood because of all the trauma. So I try so hard to remember, thinking about doing hypnosis to help with that. But from what I can remember, I didn't claim them. I was told by my mother that they didn't want me because I'm Black. So whenever I met them, at whatever age I was, I didn't want them because they're white. So I developed a severe hatred for white people. Like I literally, in high school, and again, remember, I went from an all black school to a majority white school. And here I am. I hate white people at that time in my life through my high school years. So that was bad. And that's because I grew up thinking, oh, well, them white people didn't want me because I'm black, so I don't want them either. But little did I know, the lie detector determined that was a lie. So I did not know until my adulthood that these people were trying to be a part of my life. They were blocked out of my life. They were kicked out. And so I often wonder, had I had a normal upbringing with a black mom and a white dad and in a same household with love and everything else that I'm seeing now in the 21st century, would I be a little bit more normal and accepting of myself? Probably so. But at that time growing up, I thought that they hated me, so I hated them back. Now that I know the truth and I know that that wasn't the case, they speak to me. But for me, it's weird. I don't really know how to describe it. I want to love them. I want to be a loving, kind, accepting person. I forgive them because I'm a Christian and I'm supposed to forgive people. And I forgive even my mother for letting me grow up thinking that, you know. But I'm unable at this time to really build the father-daughter relationship. And so, you know, I talk to him on occasion. Father's Day, I try to be nice and give him a call or whatever, but it's just awkward for me. Like, we have nothing in common.
Now, you said your mother was a Black Panther?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know the story, how that all arrived, where, you know, was she a Black Panther before or after? I
know, well, my grandfather, from what I'm told, my grandfather was the Black Panther, and I've seen pictures of him in his gear and everything. And so I guess my mother has just told me, you know, that I'm a third generation Black Panther. So she picked that up mostly whenever he passed away, to carry on that name and that legacy. So I don't know how far back that goes in the generations. I haven't looked that deep yet, but yeah, that's a generational thing. Yeah.
Okay. So how far can you go back in your timeline?
Boy, bits and pieces. It's hard. Like I said, that was the hardest thing about writing this book, because even as I'm looking through all the journals and have to look through pictures and stuff to jog my memory, there was still so many blank spaces. And so I thought about going through hypnosis before I published the book, but I felt like the pain that I was already dealing with was enough. Just having, from what I could remember, just having to remember it, that was enough. So I didn't want to put myself through that too. But I will eventually, as I'm going through this process. This book is a whole process. It's published, and once it was done, but it's not done. You know, it's the whole journey is a part of that, and that's going to be a part of it soon too. So
now. Let's get up out of here and bring it back up. What are you doing, or better yet, is it the activity that you get yourself involved into with the arts and everything? Mm-hmm. Is that what you utilize to help you with your depression?
Oh, absolutely. That's very therapeutic, and I think that's probably why, you know, within the past year, it may feel like, I wouldn't say it's worse, but it's more noticeable to me because I'm having to sit still, which is the case for most people in the world right now. Because of COVID, we're all having to sit still and be with ourselves. So if I don't have that outlet and I'm not on that stage, I start going through withdrawal, and it definitely it's harder to figure out how to articulate what I'm feeling. But so I definitely know that the arts are therapy for me. Yes.
Yes. And how does your family deal with your situation, and do you see any signs that they're dealing with it?
As far as the depression side?
Yes.
I have two younger sisters that were raised with me, so they're now as adults dealing with a lot of the things that I have been through. So I thank God that I went first, kind of dived in first, and I'm able to help them to cope with a lot of things and get them through a lot of situations because of what I've been through. My mother, as far as I know, probably still deals with a little depression as well. I can only hope that, when if she sees any of my interviews, if she's read my book, I don't really know, that it's a help to her rather than making things worse for her mentally, I guess. But yeah, so I know it's a help for my sisters. I know that. But I don't think my mother and I have addressed that part of it enough for me to speak for her in that aspect.
And what about your family that you produce, your husband and your children? How do they deal with you when you're depressed? Do they understand and do they help out? And do you see any signs within them that they might be going through the same thing because it's generational and
right.
you can inherit it?
Right. I definitely noticed with my children at an early age, like just paying attention to them and looking for that you can tell the generational stuff. One of my sons, he has the rage and it gets it honestly from both sides. And I saw it early, like when they're 2 and 3, you think they couldn't have learned this from anywhere because they've only been around you. So this has to be generational, right? So when you got a kid that will get so mad at something, like he just, snarling like a little, demon child or something, that's generational. And so that's another thing that us talking and working on our communication has helped them with, because I recognized that. I said, okay, we got to nip this in the bud early. We got to work on this. And he's made so much progress to now he's a teenager and he's able to, I watch him catch himself when the anger's coming and it's like, okay, let me calm down like mom told me, And then also my children seeing that, as adults, I think we try to portray to children that we don't deal with nothing. We don't go through nothing. We're perfect. We're adults. We know everything and you should listen to us. Like, that's a big mistake that most parents make. I don't do that. I do try to hide my sadness from them a lot, or when we were going through being homeless and stuff, I tried to make it an adventure for them so it wouldn't affect them negatively. But there are times, even especially more recently, because we're all quarantined together and I homeschool and everything else, that they have witnessed my sadness and I couldn't hide it. And so rather than keep trying to hide it, I decided, I need to go ahead and start letting them know, this is how I feel right now. This is why I feel that way. That's okay. You're going to have days, especially when you become an adult, that you're going to feel this way. You're going to go through some things. You can come and talk to me about them. It's perfectly normal for you to feel this way. It's all about how you handle it and how you deal with it. I think we make depression such a bad thing that it's like, oh my gosh, if you feel that way, something's wrong with you. That's bad. You can't be feeling that way. No, we are human beings. And most recently, just diving more into my word, I have realized that even Jesus himself had these emotions, and that's, and so that makes perfect sense to me why God would decide to put himself in the flesh so that we could understand, from the flesh perspective, that, okay, if he's like this, then who do I think I am that I wouldn't ever experience any of those things? So it's not that you can't feel those things. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel sadness. You're going to feel pain and rejection. But it's how you decide to deal with it and to cope with it that matters.
Right. So what are some of the things that you would share with those that could be going through the same experiences, having the same experiences and everything, that you would recommend to somebody that's dealing with depression? Like, what would you recommend to help them, keep on moving?
Well, like you mentioned earlier, there's really no cure. But there are things that scientists have come up with to try to help with these things. Obviously the main two things are medication and counseling. I personally don't condone medication in my own life. I just refuse to go that route. If I felt like it was that, that I was desperate enough that there was nothing else that would work for me, I may consider that. And in some cases, I'm sure that people who are dealing with it, that they may feel that way. But I always encourage people to go another route if they can, because I've dealt with the medications before, and they do kind of take away your emotions, make you like a zombie where you can't deal with what you need to deal with. It's like a cover for me. It's not dealing with the problem. It's just pushing it back for a minute until your body becomes immune to it, and then you need something else, so I recommend therapy, which is something that I'm doing right now, to deal with everything, because especially in the entertainment industry, it's a lot to deal with. There's a lot of people depending on you. There's a schedule is everywhere. It's a lot, so therapy is necessary. And there's probably just about every actor or entertainer is in therapy and doesn't speak out on that, but it's necessary for everybody, especially in this day and age. I actually went to a therapist not too long ago, and they were saying how booked up they were. They didn't have any slots available because everybody needs it right now, and that's fine. So yeah, I recommend that if someone feels like that will help them, to talk to someone who understands and know that they're not alone. In some cases, if you can't either afford a therapist or find a therapist, although I have references in the back of my book for y'all, then you might have another form of therapy, like the arts is for me. Sometimes you need both, like I do. But yeah, so you have to just find out what works for you. And that's why it's a self-help book, because, I put some information in there. You can help yourself too. But at the end of the day, you have to help yourself. Like, I can only give so much advice. I can only say what worked for me. But it's going to be different for everybody. Some people, exercise, drinking more water, sleeping better, things like that. That helps everybody in a lot of ways. But I could go on all day just listing the things you could do to help. But the most important thing is just to recognize that you're not alone in it, and just start making progress towards a better life and a better way of coping.
Now, you also have a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. Tell us about
that. The Feed the Homeless Tour is my organization I started when I came to Atlanta, and we help with food, clothes, toiletries, whatever's needed, basically. It was just one of those one-stop shops for everything homeless, because going through being homeless myself, I was able to understand better what was necessary, what was needed, because I was there. So I just try to make sure that my organization provided those things. Now, I speak in past tense because although it's still dear to my heart, I have put it on the back burner because of everything else going on in my life, and realizing I have to put the mask on myself first, so that I'm able to better help other people. But that's what my organization did. Right now I partner with other different organizations, and one of them, Hunger Has No Religion, it has a lot of the same goals as my organization did. So I partner with them a lot, and they're doing great things in the community. And we have actually an event coming up this coming Friday, the 10th. Is that the 10th? It's Saturday. Okay. This coming Saturday, we have an event coming up for Hunger Has No Religion. My husband and I, Saga Boss, are hosting that event, but it's virtually this year. So that's a big fundraising event. It's the 10th, right? Saturday, October 10th. Mm-hmm. Yep.
October 10th at what time?
Saturday, October 10th at 7 p.m. And it's virtual. It's on Zoom. Yeah, it's on Zoom platform. And I actually just posted it on my Facebook. Just a little while ago, where you can go and link at hhnr.org is where you go to register for it.
Okay. Now, when you were operating with your nonprofit, was the discussion of depression in there, or are you just now speaking about that idea? Like, do you have a platform for people dealing with that issue?
I kind of focused on one topic at a time. Like I said, my life is a lot. So I have a lot of different topics that I have to cover in my lifespan. So as long as I'm still here, I will. But at that time, it was just focused on the homelessness. I never, spoke out too much about the depression until now. Until the book.
Okay, this book is going to help out a lot. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going through, what me and you're going through, and we need these voices to be out there, so we need to know where we can find, because that's the biggest thing that I struggle with, is like, where do I find the outlets that I can help myself out,
Right.
Because when you're depressed, you build all these walls and everything like that. So
I think for me, like, I think what makes my situation unique, and because I did my research. Anytime I do anything, I do my research first, even with the title of the book. Let me see how many people got this title. I got to, make sure I'm not stealing nobody's idea, doing, is unique and different. But what makes my situation most unique is when you search for depression, suicide, whatever the case may be, you're going to see a lot of therapists. There's pretty much just a bunch of therapists, people who went to school to learn about this, and now they get paid to help people with this, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking any therapist, but the fact of the matter is that you rarely see someone who has been through this and is going through this and is currently getting better at this. And those are the people that you're more likely to listen to because they know what you're talking about. They know what you've been through. So whereas a therapist, like, you just studied this, you don't know, right, what I'm dealing with for real. So sometimes it's harder to receive it from them. So that's what makes the situation very unique, and I think it's going to touch a lot more people.
Right. Textbook does not compare to real experience.
Exactly.
So your name, Vitelle. Where did you get that name?
I get it from my mama.
and is there a meaning behind it?
Oh Lord, that's a whole story. My mother used to say that it was for vital. That she was actually saying vital, but I guess the person that was taking the name down wrote it differently or pronounced it differently or whatever, but that was her intent for it. My grandfather, on the other hand, told me before he passed that it was because it was announced over the intercom, Dr. Vitelle, come to such and such office, and my mom was like, hey, give her that name. So I have some conflicting stories behind that name. I know which one I'm more likely to believe. But yeah, so, and I actually kind of did my research to find out, is there a Dr. Vitelle working at this hospital at this time? And lo and behold, So, but the blessing is that regardless of how it came to be, it is Googleable. And it is the only one until somebody decided to put it on a cereal box recently, but that's in a whole nother country. So hopefully that don't happen again. But, as far as I know, I'm the only Vitelle for now. And that comes in handy. It is my birth name and my stage name. So.
Okay. Well, shout out to Dr. Vitelle.
Right. And my mama.
And her mama.
She wrote it down, she did her part.
Okay, so we're about to wrap everything up. So let everybody know where they can find you. Let everybody know what you have upcoming. And just let everybody know what you have on your heart to express to them as we round this up.
Okay, absolutely. So once again, my name is Vitelle Alston. You can purchase my new book, I Am a Poetic Ensemble, on Amazon.com. You can also subscribe to my website, vitelle.net. And there you can subscribe. You can follow me on all my social media from that site. And also, if you subscribe, I have a lot of special book promotions that I will send to you, a lot of different events that you can meet me at to get your book signed, and even some secret ways that if you're a subscriber, you will know how to get a book mailed directly from me, signed personally to you.
All right. And you have anything that's on your heart that you want to express to the people?
Just want to encourage everyone to know that you're not alone. Just keep going. Depression's not something that's going to go away completely, but once you learn how to cope with it, you're going to be able to manage it. It's all about managing depression. And whatever it is that you're dealing with, that you're going through, keep your head up. You will get through it. People have before you, and you will continue to. Also, I want to remind people to vote for me. I am nominated Atlanta's Hottest Author and Atlanta's Hottest Actress right now on atlhottest.com. You can go there to vote. That information is all up on my website as well if you subscribe. And yeah.
Okay. Hey. That's a vote for me. I thought she was going to say Trump, but I was like...
You know what? If it wasn't such a huge responsibility, I would run for president just to get him out of there, but I just can't even.
Hey, if Kanye could run for
no,
president... No,
thank you. I have enough stress. Right. I don't, yeah.
Oh, well, I thank you for being a guest here on Atlanta Unplugged, and you gave some real valuable information, real good insight, and you're just an inspiration. And much success to you.
Thank you very much.
Success to you.
Thank you for having me.
That's it. That's all. And we are out.